such a time as this.
And welcome to For Such a Time as This round table. Thank you, Chad, for the encouragement there. We like the music. Thank you, sir. It is a nice, smooth, jazzy jazz.
My favorite.
Your favorite. All right, at the table with me tonight is Miss Abigail Ruth. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you, Pastor James?
Good. And
hello
also,
to everybody.
Yes. Also, Miss Vicki. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
They hold up. They're both smarter than I am, and so they hold this program
I wish you
up.
quit saying
Stop
that.
saying that.
It is true. So thank you all for sitting down with us. As always, please go to For Such a Time as This .today. For Such a Time as This .today. It is here. You will get all of our newest information as Big Brother continues to squeeze. I'm telling you, we're getting a lot less views, even though, and I want to say about 6 months ago, we tripled, if almost not quadrupled, our subscription count because we had a video that went viral. And then as we almost quadrupled our subscriptions, our views went down like a tenth. We were getting more views when we had a fourth of subscribers. So you go and figure what's going on. But anyway, it's their platform, whatever. If you go to For Such a Time as This .today, For Such a Time as This .today, you will always be able to get our newest content, because the reality is we're not sure how much longer we'll be allowed on Facebook. But if you go there, and when they shut us down, you'll be always to get us there. Tonight, I saw this story for the first time. I believe it was at the mid-June I saw this. This story is amazing. Not only the evil that it exposed, but it showed you what genuine Christianity looks like in the face of persecution. And with that said, I'll turn it over to our MC tonight, Miss Vicki. Take it away and tell us, Vicki, about Nini's Deli.
Okay, so Nini's Deli had been around for a number of years in Chicago in the Westtown neighborhood. It grew in popularity and it was owned by a family, Juan and his brother Jose and their parents. And the parents also, is interesting to note, are immigrants from Cuba and Mexico, the father from Cuba, the mother from Mexico. And their story went viral last summer during the Black Lives Matter protests that were happening all around the country. And this one happened right here in our beloved Chicago. So here's the first clip that kind of tells us a little bit about this story.
1 second. Here we go. Technical user error difficulty. Here we go.
A popular deli in downtown Chicago is no longer in business after a campaign to destroy their business was launched when they didn't fully support the Black Lives Matter movement.
There was a lot of comments that said, you could have avoided all of this if you just said Black Lives Matter. I had to say verbatim exactly what they wanted to hear. And then, just then, they said I would be able to still exist if I would allow them to tie me up, speak their words, and bow down to the social justice movement.
The biggest coward in Chicago. Wally, the biggest coward in Chicago.
And the pastors that I've met with who have come from communist countries, like one of my dear friends from Romania shared with me that what we are now facing as a church, whether it's from the justice movement of BLM or from the politicians abusing their authority, from the COVID pandemic, this was a full frontal attack of the communist values and the communist propaganda. I definitely believe the church needs to stand against it and not play nice with it.
It went viral.
Okay, so that tells you a little bit about what happened in Chicago. I want to give a little bit more backstory on this family. So Juan Riesco, he's He's the one that you'll see and hear the most from. He has an interesting backstory. So prior to joining the family business, Juan was kind of lost. He
was real lost.
Yeah. There's a documentary also I want to mention that was put out. It's called Paint the Wall Black, and the story of Nini's Deli. It's a really good documentary. It's about,
Is the link in the...
yeah, the
Okay.
link is in the YouTube
Description?
description. So we'll place a couple clips. That clip was from the documentary also. So Juan, he talks in the documentary about how when he was in high school, he was pretty lost. He was shoplifting every day after school. He was hooking up with girls. And then he just said his personality was he always wanted more and more and more. So he started shoplifting a little bit, then he was doing it every day. He was hooking up with girls, and then he decided that wasn't enough, so then he started hooking up with men as well. So after high school, he decided to move to California to live his gay lifestyle, and he said he wanted to be a professional criminal. So he lived in California.
He moved to the right state.
Yep. He went to San Francisco. Then upon returning, his brother Jose sat him down, and Jose also was living a life of crime as a gang member in Chicago. That he had found Jesus and stopped his life of crime and completely turned his life around. So he sat Juan down and told him, you need to stop what you're doing and you need to start coming to church. And he shared the gospel with him, and it really did affect him. And so he did start going to church, also with his mom. I'm not sure. His dad actually was Muslim, I don't know if he was practicing, but he was a Muslim for many, many, many years. So Juan and his brother did not grow up with the Christian faith because neither parent were practicing Christians when they were children. But both parents later did come to faith. And his mother was a Christian at the time that Juan started going to church. And their church is called what is it called again? Well, they started going to a church in Chicago, and you heard in that documentary also the name of the pastor spoke. And so their business was originally a grocery store and a deli. And Juan told his parents, you need to start focusing just on the deli part because people just want your food. So they really, that's when they renamed it Nini's Deli. This was around 2013. And what Juan talks about is how God really was a key part of this business. Because he said he saw his customers not as customers. He just saw them as people he could love because that's what he believed Jesus wanted him to
And he
do.
used his business as an outreach.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So he said when business was slow in the beginning, when they had switched over to just doing the deli rather than the grocery and the deli, he would really get to know people. He'd get to know their names, their families, all this stuff about them. And so when new people would come, they'd be like, how do you know so much about everybody? And he's like, I just do. And he also had so business got busier as the years went on. He also developed partnerships. He was big into branding. He had another clothing brand that he developed called Chicago Native. He also developed partnerships with like Nike and Adidas and all these other, and like the Chicago Fire soccer team and Molly's Cupcakes and all these people. So what ended up happening is last year in 2020, they had a record sales on May 30th of 2020 last year. And they had been named for Yelp's top 100 in the whole country. They were number 33 in the entire country for restaurants.
Wow.
So that was May 30th. They had a record day in sales. And then Tuesday, June 2nd happened. Blackout Tuesday. We all remember that day, I'm sure, when everybody in the country was encouraged to post a black square on their social media.
But particularly businesses too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's
Individuals
right.
and businesses. So
I didn't realize there was a special day for that.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I don't remember.
I'm late to the party then, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I'm not on social media as much. But they used that against my man.
Yeah. So people noticed that Nini's Deli did not post the black square. So people were reaching out to him. What's wrong? What's going on? Why aren't you posting? So the next day, on June 3rd, Juan responds and releases a statement. And this, first he made a comment because somebody said, "Don't you all believe Black Lives Matter?" And he said, "We stand against all injustice everywhere because we believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, because human beings were created in his image and believe no person should ever be wrongly killed." And then they made a full statement on their own social media that said, "Nini's Deli believes that all people were created equal in the image of God. We do not promote or agree with racism and hatred of any kind. In light of the current events, we want to let our city and nation know that we mourn with you. We pray for justice for George Floyd's family, friends, and the entire community that is hurting. We believe that all Black lives matter, and we know that only God can bring about the justice that is deserved. As a Christian, we stand against all injustice and will always serve our communities with love, grace, and integrity, no matter your race, gender, or background." And but he said, so he did say the words, but he doesn't support the organization, obviously, because they support abortion and homosexuality. And so he said, "I support people because God created them in his image, not because you want me to say it for your particular reason." So, of course, it wasn't good enough. It's never good enough. So all heck broke loose that Wednesday, June 3rd. And why don't we go ahead? Now here's clip 2 that shows some of what happened around that time.
Before Blackout Tuesday, I had companies like Nike calling me saying, "We want to schedule the next 12 months of work with you." It was very interesting for me to see just how fickle that relationship really was. Nike publicly denouncing me, the Chicago Fire soccer team saying that they denounce the things that I've said, that they denounce all forms of racism. Topo Chico hit me up to tell me I'm canceled within moments, gone.
So one business after another, Nike, etc., went out there and denounced them. So they just lost all their business partnerships for having this stance.
Countless comments came in, and I saw all of those comments as an opportunity to preach the gospel. No matter how vicious they were, I knew these people needed Christ. I took some time to individually respond to the hate messages and share the good news of Jesus Christ with them. And it got to a point where it was a bit overwhelming, and I couldn't respond and I couldn't keep up.
I said to Juan, "Why don't we come out to your store tomorrow? We'll preach, we'll give out free empanadas, and everybody can meet you, they can meet us, and we can have discussion."
They had essentially laid out their game plan to me. "If you don't give us money, if you don't say what we want you to say, we're gonna come protest. Someone might burn you down." And I let them know, if y'all are gonna come protest, we're gonna come preach.
So that is what they did the next day. Juan's brother, Jose, well, this was Friday, actually. Friday, June 5th, Jose.
You know what? Let me say something that, a couple of things that come to mind after watching these 2 clips. Number one, it's July. Where did Black Lives Matter go? Did Joe Biden solve all their problems? I mean,
Oh, you mean
this
now,
summer?
2021.
Yeah. What happened?
Right. What can happen? Yeah, so much changed in a year, but
Right. And then secondly, it isn't enough. It isn't enough to keep your mouth shut. You have to speak up in.
You have to affirm.
Yes, and not only that, if someone else doesn't, you have to denounce them. And that comes straight out of that's a totally totalitarian tactic.
Yeah.
It's not good enough to keep your mouth shut. So I just want to point out that for fellow believers, brothers and sisters who think that it's going to be good enough to keep our heads down, no, it won't. That at some point, every single one of us is going to have to take a stand, is going to have to draw a line or not, or
Yeah.
cave.
Yeah, to thinking you can be safe in the suburbs, or thinking you're going to be safe if you just keep your head down and not say anything, you are sadly mistaken. Sooner or later, I believe it's going to keep going to the point in this country, not in Russia, not in China, in this country, you will be forced to declare your allegiance. This right here is a precursor. I believe what's going to happen if things keep going. Now, if the Lord is gracious and gives us a reprieve, good. But if He doesn't, this will be commonplace. And I don't doubt whether or not they start going to churches. But let me just say for the record, and it's just me. Oh, never mind. No, I shouldn't say that. Go ahead, Vicki. We haven't got to that point yet. I'll share when we get to that point. But go ahead.
Thank you, Jack, for your comment. Yes, it is Metro Praise International. Thank you. I had a brain lapse there for a minute. Yeah, and Jack said BLM bought mansions in the white neighborhoods. That's where they went.
Oh, that's what they cashed out.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
So that Friday, Jose, Juan's brother, set up a speaker outside the deli and starts preaching. And within like first 5 minutes of him preaching, someone came over and like, "What are you doing?" And he shared the gospel with them, and and the guy right then and there, it's in the documentary, said, "Okay, yeah, let me learn more about this." And
and I think he
wow,
made a profession of faith, right? Yeah.
So people gathered throughout the whole day. It just got crazier and crazier outside the deli. Thousands of people later in the day marched down the street. And they used this as an opportunity to preach the gospel. Of course, people did not like that at all. So the harassment that was going on, that's in clip 3 that we'll play here in a second, that shows just how up in arms these people were, and how they wanted blood.
You know what? All those companies that canceled on him in a day, we should get a list of who they were and cancel them now. See, this is one of the things.
No more Molly's Cupcakes for me, I'll tell you that.
Oh, one of them was Molly's?
Molly's Cupcakes, yep.
Ooh. I think my wife just bought a Molly cupcake thing.
Well, they're in Woodfield now, so.
Yeah, I think that's what she got as a present. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Molly cupcake. We need to get. See, this would be the power of the church right here. If the church was more in sync and as one, and when someone goes after a brother in Christ like this, you know, and you cancel, and you pull your support from him, then we should pull our support from you.
Right.
Whether it's not Nike or Molly Cupcakes or whomever. You know what? If you want to do that, fine. Cancel you.
Right. But if you don't want my money, then
that's right.
Then I don't want to give it to you.
That's right.
So clip 3 here shows a lot of what happened that day, and just how evil these people were being towards the family.
Our car got surrounded. Police had to come create a barricade to get us out of our parking spot.
Look at Ronnie and his family pulling up. Mother hiding behind 50 cops.
Then I started getting comments like, "Where does Juan's family work at? Let's message his family's jobs." Just called Juan's brother's employer. Just called Juan's sister-in-law's employer to let him know that their whole family's racist. That they need to kick them all out of their job.
So they were already contacting our job. I tried to resign. They wouldn't even let me resign, but they made a public post basically insinuating that I'm a racist and homophobe. So they were contacting the job. My wife was working at a real estate agent. They doxed her. She ended up getting fired. My wife said she was getting pictures of people walking through my yard to the front door, taking pictures of the window, like the big old window in the front, saying nobody's home. Like people are like literally walking there. And one guy's talking about killing my kids.
When it became for us dangerous is when they kept putting out our address with their threats. And how that affected us as a family is my wife began to get concerned for our 6 children. What's going to happen to our family? Is it safe to be here? They went to our website and began to find out where our home Bible studies were, and then they started making threats on those people's homes. They started leaving notes on their cars. They started finding out where they worked by doing background checks. They started calling up their bosses and their employers. They protested in front of some of their workplaces, wanted them fired.
And my pastor calls me, he's like, bro, they just leaked my address, your brother's address has leaked, they leaked your mom's address.
I buried my...
If you think you're safe as a Christian by just keeping your mouth closed, you're sadly mistaken.
And I'm so glad this documentary was made, because I did not hear about this last summer.
Me neither.
I didn't either.
Me neither. I didn't know about it at all.
So they weren't just threatening the Riascos, they were also threatening, as you heard, his pastor
Yep.
and all the people at the church and the pastor's family.
Yep.
It tells you, I mean, it's so clear who is behind it. That these people are animated, obviously, by the adversary, by our adversary, Satan, because it's so clear that nothing they're doing is rational. It's just all driven by hate. And I don't know. I'm right in front of it, so.
And
Pastor James says I'm not in front of the microphone.
You're dropping.
I don't know what to say except
That's
the
good.
microphone kind of drops.
Yeah.
But these kind of things just remind me so much of the spiritual nature of this battle.
Mm-hmm. And we need to remember, too, that Juan treated everybody with kindness. Someone called him, who doesn't agree with him, but they called him stupid friendly. Like, he was just such a friendly guy, and he treated everybody with love. It didn't matter what your belief system was or anything. He treated you, and as I'm wearing my Jack Phillips t-shirt today in honor of Christian business owners who are under attack, but they wouldn't, of course, not give him, and to call a son of a Cuban and Mexican immigrant a racist, to call this family racist, it's just ludicrous.
No, it doesn't matter.
That's what I said. It's just all emotionally driven. It's just hate. I mean, that's it. Hate in the name of justice. Hate in the name of loving people. It's really something to see.
Yeah. And he changed his caption. So his original caption, the one that went viral on Twitter, was All Lives Matter, which of course everybody blew up. Yep. So he actually did change it to All Black Lives Matter, but it still wasn't good enough. But because the problem is, he said the lives matter because they're made in the image of God.
Yep.
So even though he agrees with them, that of course Black Lives Matter, but here's why. He doesn't agree with, they don't agree with his why. So then it doesn't count. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and some people who are not as big a person as these guys were, because they were big, they didn't turn to violence. Some people who are not as big as them might have had some shotgun shells they would have thrown back at the crowd. I'm just saying. It's wrong, but some people would have done that.
Yeah, and they were getting death threats. Their families were getting, you know, their employees were being called and harassed, and they were getting death threats. People at the church were getting death threats. So that Saturday, June 6th, they announced that they were closing Nini's. So
that happened really fast. I didn't realize, because I did watch the documentary.
June 6th, so...
Yeah, it was a week. It was less than a week.
Less than a week. So they had a pink brick wall, which was famous outside the deli, where people would take Instagram photos, and it was a place to go in Chicago and get your picture taken.
And where was this? It's on the south side, west side? Where was this?
Westtown.
Westtown.
The Westtown neighborhood at the corner of Ohio and Noble Streets.
Westtown.
That's what they said.
I haven't actually heard of Westtown.
I don't know who that is.
I don't
know what
either.
that is.
But
it's not too far from downtown when I looked at the map.
Okay,
like what
so
I consider downtown.
It's like near West Side then. Close to the loop.
That sounds right.
Okay.
When you say all lives matter, if somebody says that to me, what I think of, yes, it means all black babies matter, even the ones that are aborted, and all the black lives that are taken by violence, for the most part, other blacks murdered in drive-by gang shootings, all this kind of thing. They all matter. But to Black Lives Matter, none of that matters because it's really not even a lot about Black lives. It's about tearing down the current system and replacing it with whatever you want to call it, as communism, socialism, leftism, creating their utopia. Can you imagine these? Which is also the other thing is, it's so patently obvious that these people don't know how to create anything. They only know how to destroy. That is all they do. Is destroy what's there.
Now, who's the they that you're
talking about? Like people who marching in the Black Lives Matter, like last summer, destroying, burning buildings, assaulting police officers. It's so clear that they aren't about creating anything. It's a lot easier to tear things down than it is to build them up.
Right.
But yeah, and again, I just want to reiterate, they went after this man because of his reluctance to toe the company line.
Right.
That's coming our way. Whether the company line is take the shot, whether the company line is
let's hope they don't tear this. Take this.
Whether the
video
company line is agree with gender identity, sexual orientation. It is coming down the pike. This is what it's coming to all of our lives, I believe, in some way, in one way or another. This man was famous, had everybody wanting to work for him. He was a celebrity, and in a matter of what, less than a week,
I guess so.
Took it all away. Because not only did he not toe the line, but he dared to make it a spiritual issue. And when he made it a spiritual issue, look at what happened. Vitriol. Just vitriol. And I think, again, if the culture keeps going the way it's going, the worst thing you can do as a believer is thinking it's not going to touch you. If you just keep your mouth closed, it's not going to touch you. And if you have that attitude, if you have not made up in your mind that you are going to stand, then you will cave. And that's ultimately what the enemy wants. Believers to cave.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there is a lot of value in deciding ahead of time what is your line.
What do you mean for believers?
Yes. What is the line I will not cross? If I'm in a situation at work or whatever, where it looks like I'm going to be required to do some things that I cannot do in good conscience as a Christian, I think it really makes a difference. You really have to make up your mind ahead of time. Sometimes things come upon us and they take us by surprise, and just because of that, we haven't had time to think. We end up falling. We end up sinning. Whatever. But these things are obvious. It's obvious they're coming. There is no. Every Christian needs to deliberately address them, not just shove it to the side. I mean, I'm talking about mentally.
Right.
And be praying about it and think and make up their mind now.
Yep.
What is the line?
Right.
This is my opinion.
Yeah.
So, the pink brick wall ends up being painted black and covered in graffiti. And then Juan and Jose announced that they're going to focus on ministry and leave Chicago with their families after so many threats of violence towards them. So they go to Dallas and they start a church there. And then I think the reason we heard about this story about a month ago is because that's when word came out that there's another twist in this story. Nini's reopened. Just
Yeah, I didn't hear that. I saw the documentary, but I didn't realize that.
Yeah, the documentary came out, I believe, in March, and they didn't announce this till June. So it's not. I don't believe it's. Yeah, the documentary was earlier. So
wait, they've been open since June of last year?
no, this year, just a month ago. They officially opened actually just July 6th this month. They just opened a couple weeks ago.
Now, so this happened last year.
This
so
happened
they've been
last
closed for
year.
about a
So
year.
they were closed for 13 months.
Gotcha.
Yep, they were closed for 13 months down in Dallas doing ministry for those 13 months. But Juan wrote on his Facebook, through prayer and counsel from our leaders and an unction from the Holy Ghost, we have decided to double down on our Christian worldview and reopen our family business for the glory of God alone. We know it is an interesting time to be a vocal Christian business, but we also know Christians are to be a light in a dark place, and this is the place we are called to.
So they went back.
So they are reopened, and according to their Facebook, things are going pretty well. I don't think they're open for dine-in. It's just carry out, but so far there's been no violence.
So what happened to all the people that were the mob, the animated mob?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
They just let them back in. Okay, let me get some comments here off the wall here. Meg, most of the mob members are being used. They are believing a lie, pushed by academics / teachers and government officials. That may, I have no doubt that that's true, but you will be held accountable for following wicked men and being ignorant to what you're doing. That's just, I mean, this is just evil. I mean, I'm not sure. I could be wrong. I'm not sure this would have happened 30 years ago in the South. I don't know.
I don't think it would have happened 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
last summer was
changed.
something else.
It changed. And I'm curious, why is it they're back there now? Huh. Okay.
Well, we had an election.
You think the election now has let them?
Well, I think if the election, if the result, if there was someone else sitting in the White House today, it would be a much different summer.
Yep.
Yeah. They trust the government, Meg said. Government officials will put something better in place of the system they want torn down. They're ignorant fools if they believe that, Meg, and I have no doubt the useful little idiots want Marxism and socialism. You're absolutely right. Again, the system they hate is only in their head. Not sure I understand what that comment is, Meg. The system they hate is only in their head. Oh, you mean like, I'm thinking she means the systemic racism that's rampant in their minds.
Right.
Kim says, yes, they've been conditioned in the education system. I see that in my 21-year-old daughter. Sorry about that, Kim.
Yeah.
If your daughter has taken this up and run with it. It starts young, Jack says. Children's shoes are woke and trans. Children's shoes? Children's shoes are woke and trans. The left values...
Children's shows, maybe that's supposed to... Shows? TV shows? Children's TV shows?
Shows, yes, maybe children's shows. Woke and trans, the left values indoctrinating children more than some Christian parents. Yes,
Yep.
the
Very
educational system has nothing to do with education nowadays. It is indoctrination. Abby responds, and Jack says they opened up church trip.
Agreed. Field trip.
Oh, I got it. Church trip. That's what it is. I'm on this Benadryl. Okay. Yeah, church trip. Yeah, I know, huh? Yeah, we need to do that, right? Yeah, okay. Meg, my daughter, will be in Chicago for a visit soon and is excited to visit Nini's. Good. It said I always correct my daughter, tell her why what she's believing is wrong and how she came to believe it. Normally she realizes it's wrong. She is a Christian, was homeschooled, okay, until high school and 1 year of college. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Sure is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
So there's one more clip where Juan himself talks. This is not in the documentary. That Juan talks about.
And look, and if we look at it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's it.
And if we look at it from that perspective, what Juan says, and we've been saying this here for quite some time, we believe God is separating the sheep from the goats. It is through persecution true Christianity shines, and false Christianity fades. Here's Mr. Juan.
It exposed so many folks who identify as Christian and showed us that they are nothing more than tools of liberal propaganda, essentially. This moment of persecution, or of pushback, cultural pushback, whatever you want to call it, that my family endured, there is many good things that came from it. But one thing that I do want to say is that it exposed wolves in sheep's clothing. It exposed so many folks who identify as Christian and showed us that they are nothing more than, liberal tools of liberal propaganda, essentially. Yeah. And they are not, in fact, standing on Scripture as their bedrock, but rather standing on emotionalism and basically the wicked agenda of this world. Mm-hmm. And so we're so grateful that the Lord exposed that, shed light on those things. And now we know who the true soldiers of the Lord are. Mm-hmm. Now we know who really loves him, who are his children. And we see it so clearly now. Whereas before, we could take these stances and say, man, you don't stand for the gospel. Man, you don't, but in paper, a lot of Christians are Orthodox.
Yeah.
In paper.
On paper. It's easy to do.
But then these moments really takes off the curtain and shows what's behind it all.
That's right.
So we're so grateful for that, man, honestly. Our church is on fire more than ever right now. Like, we have people now that are coming to our church for the same reason that a lot of these people left. Yeah. They're like, wanting his business. They were too radical. They didn't love people, etc. And we got other people who are like, man, y'all really love people. Y'all really preach the gospel in the face of turmoil. Like, you guys really actually stand on scriptures. That's the church I want to go to.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Amen.
That is the one good thing that came out of 2020. And I've said this before. I think God is separating the sheep from the goats. We have a saying that for such a time as this, and for New Hope, to Christians who are professing, don't tell me what you believe. Tell me what you are willing to fight for. And if you are not willing to fight for the gospel, if you are not willing to fight for Scripture as writ, if you are not willing to be persecuted for this thing we call Christianity, then in the immortal words of God written through his scribe Paul, check yourself to see if you are truly in the faith. That is such I would want to say, a good testimony, to the point that seems to be someone who really loved the Lord, saying, hey, my persecution was good for me. Now I know what I truly believe. And again, how many of us will say, when persecution comes, I think I'll stand. I think I'll fight for the gospel. I think I have enough gumption to stand in the face of adversity. Well, he doesn't have to say that anymore. He's done it. You know.
Testing reveals the truth.
Testing reveals the truth.
It requires either failure or more or deeper commitment.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as standing still.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I hope I can withstand persecution, and some of us, I hope I can stand persecution without shooting them. Yeah, you have that where he doesn't have to say he hopes. He has a testimony.
Yeah, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, but he's been very open about how he left the homosexual lifestyle. He renounces it now. He knows it's a sin, and he preaches that it's a sin. Just like all sexual he's very, that all sexual activity outside man-woman marriage, is a sin. And of course, they hate him for that as well.
Yeah, that's what they probably hate him the most for,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that he's going to. I saw it too. That
I know he's happily married.
It was
and
about
they,
yeah,
and he gives credit to Jesus for that. And
Yeah.
of course, they hate that.
and that's what they hate. I mean, because ultimately, it's not about Black Lives Matters.
Of course not.
Black Lives Matters is just a shell for the enemy to push his agenda, and it is against the church. People, it's not about Democrat and Republican. Please don't fall for that. Conservative or liberal, please don't fall for that. It is a battle between good and evil. And we've said this a lot around New Hope too. This critical race theory and all the stuff going on in the world, it's just too widespread and too orchestrated to be human in origin. It's against the church. They're coming for the church. And if you are a Christian and you still think this is a political thing, and politics are being used, but it's not a political thing. This is a spiritual battle.
Yeah.
And the more we keep going, the clearer that reality becomes, at least to me.
And let me just say, it was probably clear to people in that clip, but when I watched the documentary, what he was talking about really stood out to me because the persecution came from inside his own church.
Who's that now?
Juan.
Oh, yeah,
That's
part
what
of
he
it,
was
yes.
talking about.
Yes, absolutely.
There were people, Juan, what are you doing? Just
Yep.
tell them what they want to hear, or just keep your mouth shut, or just, and they were angry. And it's just so very clarifying.
Yeah, it is.
Really.
It is clarifying, and I think God is going to give us more opportunities to clarify, unfortunately. Well, no, I shouldn't say unfortunately. Fortunately, he's going to give more opportunity, but that opportunity will come in the form of some form of persecution. So.
And Meg said that Juan, in a conversation with John Harris from Conversation That Matters, that Juan said he wanted to open up again because he felt he needed to go where the resistance was. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him.
That's good.
Field trip.
Yeah, we do need to do that. We need to figure out how far away it is.
Yeah, it's probably a 45-minute drive.
Yeah.
Depending on traffic.
Yeah, we need to do that. We need to do that for sure. All right. So as we end this segment again, last words, I'll start off. I'll say it again. If you are a Christian, start to make up your mind now where that line is that Abby talked about, where that line is, because you're going to be tested. If you are a believer, you are going to be tested.
Yeah.
You're going to be tested. Make up your mind right now. Where is that line? Because it's coming. And hopefully you will make up your mind that Christ is worthy of you suffering for his name's sake.
Mm-hmm.
But it's coming, people. I mean, if you can't see it by now, I feel sorry for you. But the spiritual realities are what they are. A time for choosing. It's coming.
Yeah.
Abby, Vicki?
Yeah, I guess just Juan's a good example. He knew where his he knew that he gave Jesus credit for his business thriving, and he never ever forgot about that. He knows, and we all have blessings. We all have difficulties in life too, but we all have blessings. And we need to remember where those blessings come from and not forget about, the one who gave us everything that we have, and to stand by him when it's hard.
Yeah. Abby?
Yep, I think I've spoken my piece.
You've spoken your piece. I hear you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what an exciting time to be alive. The one thing that gives me some sort of solace or peace and joy, I believe the Lord is coming back. I believe he's coming back soon, I should say. Of course he's coming back.
We all know he's coming back.
Yeah, let me clarify that. Yeah, I think what you're seeing is an unraveling of the world system, making way for the ultimate evil. Not the ultimate evil. Well, the ultimate evil in our day and no evil on earth since the days of Nimrod and the Tower of Babel. A world united in rebellion against God, which is in the book of Revelation. So, in the words of our Lords, lift up your heads when you see these things happen, for your redemption draws near. I hope that is the reality in our day, and I hope that most of us alive in the Lord will see his coming. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for being here as we discussed Nini's Deli, and may what we say encourage you further to more obedience. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, audience.
Good
Thanks,
night,
everyone.
everybody.
Good night.
Good night.